on my review of The House on Sorority Row, one of our OG slashers that told the story about a group of sorority sisters who choose to play a prank on their house mother, which led to her deranged son seeking revenge on them years later, trying to kill all of them for revenge for his dead mother. Now, it's a great slasher. It's a very, very simple premise. Somebody is killed. Family member who's upset decides they're going to take everything into their own hands. It's a fantastic film and a very, very easy slasher to get behind. When we got the remake came out, and it was very interesting only because it came out during the time to where we were getting all of these remakes. I'm not sure if y'all have heard me talk about it numerous times before, but I have. The 2000s, from 2000 to 2010 specifically, was just the land of remakes of old slashers and other horror films coming out to Hollywood again. So, we got our Black Christmas, we got our Japanese remakes, we got like The Hitcher, and we ended up with Sorority Row as well. Now, the idea behind a lot of these remakes was that they were going to keep the very simple basis of the story, but then do everything else different. Very, very different from something like let's say like a Fright Night, to where Fright Night it's not a shot-for-shot remake, sure, but for the most part, it's the same story. Vampire moves in next door to Charlie Brewster, starts flirting with his mom and his girlfriend and everything. Charlie asks a local horror legend to help him vanquish the vampire, rinse and repeat. That's it. That's all you got to do. With Sorority Row, the idea is that a group of sorority sisters plays a prank that backfires horrendously on them, and they are tormented by a being that wants revenge on them. Now, there's a very, very big difference in the motivations of our original killer versus the killer in this, but they're still good motivations. Now, our writer of this is somebody that I've talked about before, Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, who have written Spiral and Jigsaw and Piranha 3D, amongst a lot of others, a lot of good horror films out there that I really, really enjoy. So it was nice to revisit this just because I really do enjoy Josh Stolberg's work. And what's interesting is that I've seen, I would say about 95% of this film before I actually purchased it this week, because over the last 12 or 13 years basically since it's been out, like I've seen all the movie basically in clips. I knew who the killer was, I knew who the lead characters were, like I knew pretty much everything about it. I just never saw it in a cohesive manner. So I finally got a chance to see it, and yeah, you know what? It works perfectly in that time frame of 2000s remix, because the thing is that we weren't getting too complicated of a plot with this. Again, the original plot wasn't that complicated in this one. And this one, I don't want to spoil the motivations of the killer. We're past the 10-year rule, but what I will say is that the prank was very similar to the first one, to where somebody was trying to fake a death, and unfortunately that led to a real death, and thus that led to a killer emerging and targeting all of these girls. Now, the similarities there past that continue with the idea that there's, one girl who's kind of like the ringleader of this plot, who's angry and mean to everybody else because she's trying to keep her secret safe. And that ends up with this ringleader and the rest of the girls kind of blackmailing one of the other girls in the group, who basically doesn't want to go along with it and wants to do the right thing. Because that's the way that slashers typically work when there's some kind of revenge plot, is that somebody wanted to do the right thing, and for whatever reason, they were not able to. And that led to the majority of their problems happening. Now, the killer in this movie does have a weapon they like to use. It is a tire iron. And I do enjoy that, because the original film, there wasn't any kind of specialized weapon. Because if you saw how the house mother was killed in the original film, that would make it a little complicated for our killer in that movie to take out other victims. So basically it was just, hey, this is a killer in a mask. They're killing everybody with anything that's around. And that's fine. But I like the fact that they take the trope of, look, most slashers have a trademark item, and here's your trademark item in this film. It's going to be a tire iron that also has a knife on it for whatever reason, and so on. And I really like that, because it's a nice, memorable weapon. And that leads definitely to some very, very memorable kills. I like the idea of slashers using weapons that can be used very uniquely. There's nothing wrong with the use of something like a knife or a hatchet or a chainsaw or anything, but we see those in so many movies that there's only so much you can do across a million different movies featuring these weapons to where it gets a little bit old. And not old where I'm bored with seeing it, but just that it's always nice and you can appreciate when something new comes on, like a tire iron knife. I like that quite a bit. Now, in terms of the actual cast of characters here, this could have been slightly better, and I think it's a mix of making sure that we were what's the word? We were selling to that 2000s crowd, because if you look at the cast that we have here, you know, Briana Evigan, Leah Pipes, Rumer Willis, Jamie Chung, Audrina Patridge from The Hills and Laguna Beach and all of that. It's a very, very, and we can't forget, Carrie Fisher is in this. Carrie Fisher, yes, Princess Leia, absolutely had a role in this film as well. So it's not a big one, but she absolutely had a role in this, which I absolutely love, because Carrie Fisher just didn't give a fuck. And like, I feel in the last like 2 decades before she passed, Carrie Fisher did whatever the hell she wanted to. Queen, I salute you for that now too. The cast is really good, but the problem is, I feel, and maybe not necessarily a problem, maybe just because that kind of TV didn't appeal to me, is that a lot of it very much comes off like I'm watching an episode of The Hills or Laguna Beach or something around that time. And again, I say that and it sounds like it's a knock. It's not really supposed to be, though, because I guess that kind, like the kind of conversations these girls are having would really, like, it would appeal to people who are watching all those shows at that time, which is kind of surprising that this movie didn't really do better, because I actually do feel that this appealed greatly to that audience at the time, the MTV generation, when MTV was still good back then. So just very interesting observation with that. Now, in terms of everything else, it's surprisingly not bloody. And not that the original specifically was, but the 2000 horror films, that was one of their biggest calling cards, is that you're going to get more gore and more blood. And the deaths are definitely more violent, but there's so much cutting away and there's so many shots not being seen that I was honestly very surprised at the lack of blood and gore that came with that. And that's okay. I don't need blood. I don't need body parts, stuff like that, to really enjoy a film. But some of these girls are killed in very violent ways. There's other victims as well, too, that are killed in different ways as well. And I guess it's just interesting to me that we didn't get any lingering shots. And as far as I'm aware, there's not an unrated version of this film. So it's like, where are these other shots? They really edit it that much. Now, the film does leave it open for a sequel like the original movie did, and honestly, I am kind of surprised that we never got like even a direct-to-video sequel, just because Sorority Row actually seems like the kind of franchise that would have worked well keeping it going on direct-to-video, especially this new one. Like, I reviewed The Hitcher recently, and The Hitcher's not one that I would have continued on, and yes, they did make a sequel to the original film before they made the remake that C. Thomas Howell came back for. Jake Busey was in it as well. I've talked about it a little bit. But I did find it interesting that this was not a franchise that got more movies done, because I feel the college setting is so easy and cheap to do for direct-to-video. So just very, very interesting to me that we got nothing else out of this. Now, in terms of which one is better, this is definitely an original film in this case. Y'all know with some of the other remakes that I've looked at and the originals there, I typically go the route of the original. But with this one here, I guess I'm still going the original on this one as well too. They're both good. I'd watch them both. I will probably watch the remake more than I do the original film, honestly. But the good thing is that the original still feels so contemporary that it doesn't feel like I'm watching something super old, checking that out. So I'll end up watching both of these, honestly, fairly regularly. But the remake of Sorority Row is free right now, both on Tubi and on Freevee. So if you check both of those out, you got a chance to check this out for free and not pay a dime for it. So go watch yourself some Sorority Row, y'all. Enjoy it. Hey everybody, I appreciate you checking out this video, whether it was a review, whether it was a new episode, whether it was an unboxing, an interview, or whatever else. I want to remind you, you can check out my separate reviews also on my YouTube page, and new full episodes go up every Wednesday night on YouTube at 8:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and on your favorite podcasting platforms at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like and share. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.